Hello, it's me again. This is Peter Stewart with Live Stream Insiders. Thanks very much indeed for joining us, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching the pre-recorded, the replay edition. There goes the bell and here comes the clock, because what we always say is we'll give you the last 7 days of live streaming news in the next 30 minutes or so. Usually it's a we. This week, it's just me, because Krishna is unavoidably detained. She's got a bit of work on this week, and that means that she has got to travel this Sunday evening to get to where she needs to be on time, so that she is all ready and prepared for her presentations and workshops going on tomorrow. So safe journeys, Krishna, and hopefully you'll be back with us next week. So this is episode 121, date of the 18th of February 2018, and as you can see from the title sequence here alongside this live video, this is what we've got in store for you today. We've got a case study from Southwest Airlines. Also, we're going to be talking about a mountain rescue that a TV station decided to live stream, but there's been a bit of criticism about that. Also, you may have heard or read about Vimeo and the changes that they are making to their live streams, which was announced during the course of the week. Well, did you catch the catch? Maybe you didn't do that. We'll highlight for you that for you in the next 30 minutes. And also, well, we'll start off with this about how Twitter has been changing its live streaming in the light of major incidents, major news alerts and breaking stories, and that was highlighted particularly during the course of this week. So we'll bring you all of those stories in the next half an hour, right here on Live Stream Insiders, episode 121. We're having our one-to-one with you over the next 30 minutes, and we'll start off with that story about Twitter and those dreadful circumstances surrounding what happened at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida, and what Twitter did as part of its reaction to what was going on, not only there but also in some other breaking news situations as well. And it's really interesting that as Facebook kind of pulls away from its help with and coverage of news events, with its changes over the last month or so, Twitter has seen a bit of a niche there, that it is perhaps trying to fill that particular void. And what Twitter is doing is it's starting to show live local news TV broadcasts in a little window next to your timeline during the course of breaking news events, and it's selecting its channels, it's selecting its coverage, it's selecting its feeds from partnerships that it's building up with local TV news channels ahead of time. So last Wednesday, as it was, Twitter put this into action, not for the first time, but it was particularly highlighted during the course of Wednesday, to stream hours of footage from a local TV station during the course of that shooting, or more particularly the aftermath, from Miami's WSVN 7. That was its kind of news affiliate, if you like, during the course of that particular program. They say, we're continuing to work on new ways we can surface credible and relevant information to help people stay informed by pairing live video with the conversation on Twitter. There's no faster way to see what's happening in the world. Not my words, not even really the words of Twitter itself, but by their head of video, their general manager of Twitter video, who is, do you remember the name? Kayvon Beckpour, of course, who is in charge of that, rather than just Periscope. He was the man behind Periscope, or at least the name we all associate with Periscope, who was brought over to Twitter, what, a year, 18 months ago. And he went on to say, algorithms are notoriously vulnerable to exploitation and misinformation, but pairing algorithmically selected tweets with news stations' live video can help mitigate these issues by offering Twitter users an authoritative news source alongside the tweets. And what it meant was that when people clicked into those live videos, they were taken into a whole conversation about what else was going on, the other hashtags, the other hashtag conversations selected to go alongside that particular news story. Was it successful? Well, how successful was it? Well, 50,000 concurrent tweets is what they reached during the peak viewing level on Wednesday at one particular point. So 50,000, not bad at all, but I'm sure that maybe that'll grow on us, and once we get used to seeing that on our Twitter timeline, perhaps we're more likely to click through and to join that conversation about what that particular story is. So that's our first story here on Live Stream Insiders. Thanks, Barb, for watching, and other people who are here as well, watching on other devices, and also potentially, of course, a lot of people watching the replays, as we know. Story 1 transitions into story 2, and story 2 is about Vimeo introducing those simulcasting for live streams. But there is a bit of a catch. Were you aware of that catch? Did you spot it? If not, stay tuned and I'll bring you what that catch is over the next few minutes here on Live Stream Insiders, episode 121. So Vimeo announcing 2 updates to its platform this week, one particularly relevant to live streaming. So if you're using Vimeo, you can now simultaneously live stream to other platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch and Periscope, alongside wherever you embed your Vimeo video player. You can automatically connect to Facebook, all of your different pages, whatever they might be, and you can add YouTube and those various RTMP destinations into your stream. So that sounds easy as pie, doesn't it? That sounds straightforward. What on earth could possibly be the catch? Well, the catch is that I was saying quite carefully that it could be Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Periscope. But have you noticed what the thing is there? Have you noticed the catch? Have you noticed the slight problem? Yeah, because what Facebook does is Facebook actually bans you from using its live API to stream to other places as well as Facebook. You're not allowed to stream to several channels all at the same time. So Vimeo is actually forbidden from enabling you to do what it suggests you can do. So it's not actually that you can stream to YouTube and Facebook and Periscope and Twitch. What it's allowing you to do is to stream to Facebook or YouTube or Periscope or Twitch. Or it's, now I've got to refer to my notes here because this is where it gets slightly complicated. You can broadcast, no, you can't broadcast to anything more than just Facebook. You can do the others as well. So you can only simulcast to Facebook and Vimeo, but not YouTube, Twitch or Periscope, or to YouTube, Twitch, Periscope and Vimeo. So that particular selection, YouTube, Twitch, Periscope and Vimeo, but not to Facebook. Facebook has to stand alone. Facebook has to be by itself. You can't go to Facebook and anything else unless you're doing Facebook and Vimeo at the same time. So that particular combination, Facebook and Vimeo, does seem to be okay from the tests that they have done. Marketingland.com, from where we picked up that particular slight quirk of the situation. So this feature is currently available as part of the Plus, the Pro, the Business and Live plans. But that's all that there is particularly on the moment fitting in with that. As I say, there have been a couple of changes to Vimeo during the course of the week, and that's the particular one that we've highlighted because it has to do with live streaming. Thanks very much indeed for watching. That was story 2. Let's go to story 3, which kind of fits in a little bit into what we were talking about last week. So you remember last week we mentioned about the news story out of Nashville, wasn't it, where somebody was live streaming a SWAT team which was about to go in to a hostage situation, and they were merrily live streaming that, and the local Nashville police particularly upset because, of course, they were giving away their tactics. And this is something we've been aware of, certainly in radio and other more traditional broadcasting medium over the last several years. I certainly remember being on courses where just a moment or two was taken just to advise us that in that kind of situation not to be broadcasting details of police activity during perhaps a kind of siege or hostage situation. But of course, now everyone is a broadcaster. Now everyone has that TV station in their pocket, which makes it much more likely that the general public is likely to be doing this. And looking back on that story and also reviewing what Krishna was saying last week in the program, as it was her story to be talking about last week in our flip-flop, and the police are becoming increasingly concerned, certainly in the United States, where obviously these kinds of situations are much more common, that the live streaming of police activity is much more common as well. And as I say, that transitions pretty well into the story that we've got this week for you. And that is about a rescue operation on Mount Hood, just outside Portland in Oregon, a week or so ago. In fact, February the 13th, where local news helicopters were on the scene and they were live streaming the view of the mountain rescue operators trying to save various people who were stuck on that mountain. And just referring to my notes and a quote here from outsideonline.com, and the person who was writing this was actually involved in a similar mountain rescue operation himself, where he actually had to have the emergency services rescue him from that self-same mountain. And he said that as I and many others watched, I was grateful that I was rescued on a Sunday morning when there weren't any news choppers in the air. Technology has made it so that Mount Hood rescue efforts are to Portland what police pursuits are to Los Angeles. And this is the problem, really, that there was so much coverage of this particular operation, not just live streamed to the particular TV channel, but it was actually live streamed direct to Facebook and the particular TV company. I won't give them the courtesy of giving them any more publicity. But this was live streamed from the news chopper, as I say, not only to the TV channel, but also to their Facebook page. So what's the problem with that? Well, the problem seemed to be, and I kind of understand this to a large extent, and it would be really interesting to get your views as well, watching here and perhaps leaving your comments, that of course it's much easier for people to leave their comments on a live stream and to pass on their comments to the families of those who are missing and are in danger, and the families of those who are actually perhaps trying to risk their lives in an attempt to rescue these people. Quote, as I watched, the people being rescued were subjected to knee-jerk public shaming, even before they were off the mountain. Even after one of their group had actually died, the questions propped onto the screen below the Facebook stream. How dare they take those risks? What did they expect? Who do they think they are? And of course, it's so much easier nowadays, isn't it? We've seen this for nearly 10 years, about how people hiding behind their keyboard can much more easily pass on comments that perhaps they wouldn't actually make face-to-face, one-to-one in real life, eyeball to eyeball. We may think those comments, but obviously it is putting them on the screen. So where does this leave the actual people who are trying to rescue those who are stranded, in this case, on that mountain in Oregon? Well, the article quotes actually one of the paramedics, Robert R. Bell, who says, "It almost seems like the media want you to screw up because that creates better news. It gets more coverage. So the rescuers themselves are under more pressure to do a clean and effective rescue, much as in the same way that those who have gone missing, or the families of those gone missing, who are those being rescued, are under pressure because they are seeing comments made about their loved ones, or indeed those people when they come back and perhaps they have a moment to look at social media coverage would stumble across something like this and get that kind of criticism. Let's finish off this particular story with a quote. "We've only got vague information about what happened on the mountain yesterday. We only just learnt that the man that died was named Mihar Sumi and that he was from Portland. We'll never know how he would have felt about his death being live streamed on the internet. At one point on the video, his friends did chest compressions and waved a space blanket as if signalling for help. But the rescue helicopters come from further away than the news helicopters, so the any aircraft on scene was loaded with cameras, sending pictures to me on my couch. It felt just as respectful to watch as it did to look away." Chest compressions going on for 90 minutes. You actually were able to watch somebody die live on Facebook. Wonder what you thought about that. What are you thinking about it now? Is that fair? Was that right of that particular television company in Portland to be live streaming those rescue efforts and live streaming people stranded on a mountainside, literally fighting for their lives? What must it have felt like, not only for those who were on the ground, seeing a helicopter above them, perhaps not realizing immediately that it was a news helicopter rather than a rescue helicopter, maybe wondering why it wasn't landing, maybe wondering why people weren't coming down to help them, and then realizing that they were being filmed, realizing that their chest compressions were being filmed and were being broadcast to the state, to the city, to that area. What must it have been like if you were actually on that news helicopter and your editor was asking you to do that filming? It must be bad enough in any situation watching helplessly when you can't do anything. You don't have the specialist knowledge or equipment. You don't have, in this particular situation, the possibility of landing, but you are live streaming somebody dying. Interesting times that we live in where you do that for entertainment. So let's finish off with one more story, and that is often we do case studies, and case studies, particularly one that jumped out at me because it was so well written and so well produced, and lots of kind of key KLPs, some of those key learning points that I spotted during the course of the week, which was actually from an article at prdaily.com. That's not somebody's name, incidentally, PR Daily. That's actually the name of the website. And some case studies or some learning points from Southwest Airlines. And so they've got 4 learning points. Let's talk you through these 4 learning points from prdaily.com. Number 1, when you're doing your live stream, 1, focus on your viewers. So they say Southwest goes live to satisfy one or more of the following areas. And this is really quite interesting. This is perhaps worth bearing in mind. Point number 1 of 4 with 3 points. It looks like I'm about to do charades, doesn't it? To celebrate, inform and recruit. Well, I guess not many companies or business groups or organizations are actually going to be using Facebook Live maybe to recruit, but that could be a byproduct of a Facebook Live because you see the transparency of the company or the group or the individual who is doing that broadcasting. But to celebrate what they are doing, to inform their customers and also their staff about what they're doing, and also to recruit future staff, and also, I suppose, recruit future customers as well. And they have their particular example about some of the Southwest's live videos. And it's really interesting because I wouldn't have thought about this. I would have thought, okay, Southwest Airlines are going to be talking about the airline, but forgetting about some of those other kind of knock-on organizations or knock-on topics that they could also talk about as well, which have which impinge, which have an effect on their core business. So Southwest Live videos are very often some of their most successful ones, this article is saying, are with their meteorological team. So not actually their ground staff or their air crew, but their Met Office team discussing weather conditions. And one of their most successful was when they actually talked about a solar eclipse, and another of their most successful ones was when they talked to their customers about the effect of their travels of Hurricane Matthew. So that's number one. Number two, point number two of four, number two, listen to your feedback. And they're talking about not only watching the feedback on the actual live stream, because of course that can give you an idea about what to talk about, where to go, what to show, not only in that live stream as well, but also live streams in the future. It can give you content creation planning for several shows in the future, but also, you know, potential stories in this particular case. And they say, as with any content efforts, live streams can be greatly improved by PR pros who are constantly on the lookout for trends and customer preferences and news hooks. So they're looking for stuff, they're looking for perhaps potential stories where people have been affected individually. I'm thinking of perhaps things like great service, or maybe something happened, or maybe there's a celebration on board, or maybe one of those stories about a lost teddy. You know, a child leaves a bear behind on a plane, and Southwest staff can spring into action and try and find the bear and return it to their owner. I guess it's those kinds of stories that they are looking out for. And they say that one of the keys to uncovering great stories, which leads to great content, is actually about great listening, using these flaps on the side of your head to actually do the listening and the looking out for some great stories. And also number 3 of 4, and that is plan your videos in advance. Have some kind of schedule, have some kind of workflow. We've spoken before about bullet points rather than scripts and that kind of thing. Plan your videos in advance, not just your bullet points, but also where you're going to go, what you're going to show, and what you're going to say between here and there, because that's often what people forget. Yeah, while I'm here, I'm going to be talking about this. And when I'm here, I'm going to be talking about this. But they forget that they've actually got a transition between point A and point B. And while they're doing that, they've got to have something to say. So plan your video in advance. And this is point 3 from Southwest Airlines. And they've got another 5 sub points in point 3. But it's quite easy to remember because they're the 5 C words. And they're talking about when they plan for live streams with Southwestern, what they do is they think of number 1, continuity, so the theme of your stream. Number 2, content, the stories that actually support what you're live streaming about. Number 3, or the third C, are the characters, the individuals, the people who help you in your story arc, those people that are going to bring your story alive and bring it all together. And obviously they've got to be interesting, they've got to be engaging, and what they've got to say has got to be relevant. Number 4, the 4C, is composition. So it's the feel of your live stream. It's not just the camera shot, it's not just the audio, but it's where you are, it's what you show, it's the feel, it's the background, it's the movement, it's your transition, it's everything about the look and the sound and the feel of your 10 or 15 minutes. And also the completion. And this is something that I'm very, very keen on. What are you going to be doing once you tap that end broadcast, or once you swipe down and you tap on Periscope to finish your broadcast? What are you going to be doing then? Just closing down the phone, walking away, going back to your PC? No. What you're going to be doing, of course, is reversioning and reposting and regurgitating your live stream, slicing and dicing and getting more juice from that particular fruit so you can make more of it, and also gathering the data to see what worked well, how long people were watching for, at what point they got fed up and bailed, who is watching, where they're watching from, what the comments were, what kind of comments, whether you got new people making comments, whether people stopped following you because of your live stream, all of these kinds of things. And number 4 from the 4 points from Southwest Airlines and their tips for live streaming is, well, it kind of fits in with what they were making the point just now. And that is measure, measure, measure. The goal, they say, of any live streaming strategy, whether on Facebook or other social media platforms, should be to meet your campaign's goals and objectives and ultimately boost your organization's ROI. And just to finish off this particular segment, another quote, which I thought was worth reading out in full: with live video, a good place to start measuring is viewership and the amount of time people are actually engaging with your live stream. And they say experiment with time of day and day of the week to better understand when your audience is actually tuning in the most and when they are watching the longest. Authentic engagement in the form of KPIs like shares and comments reveals how well the content is actually resonating with your audience. I can't think of a better way, perhaps, of ending, talking about what you do at the end of a live stream. And that's about it. Thank you so much indeed for watching. Thanks so much indeed for watching episode 121. Really appreciate your time. And it's been good to have a 121 with you. Goodbye. Have a great week.